My chosen theme for this project will be the state of mind and emotion, and specifically, it will be discussing mental health. I found that a lot of artists are inspired by their experiences with mental health and how their state of mind fluctuates. I've experimented with both 2D and 3D, but out of the two, I'll definitely prefer 2D as I'm not only more experienced with 2D, but I feel like I'm more successful with 2D than I am with 3D. I've chosen the state of mind and emotion as I want to push myself. For some odd reason, I'd say that I'm good at capturing the emotions in my art, but overall explaining what the emotion actually is something that I struggle with. Similar to the last project, I want this to stay more personal. This project will give me the opportunity to understand myself, the artist I research, and what I unintentionally capture in my work. At the start of the project, I chose around 4 themes to start off with, those being portraits, human form, the sky, and furniture. Personally, I chose portraits as I feel like I could take this the furthest out of the rest. I want to stretch to a certain point where it can resonate with my own past, present, and future. I'll be exploring both primary and secondary inspiration, and my main ways of communicating my meaning will be via symbolism and deconstructing the design before reconstructing it. With my ideas and samples, I want to explore positive and negative state of mind. This will also be present in my final. I want to push myself with this project, use different medias I'll be unfamiliar with, and discover something I'll be happy using in future projects. For the final, I want to tell a story about my theme and convey a strong message, utilizing different medias I've taken to develop my skills, as well as other more unfamiliar ones to add. I want to also use composition to tell my message. For my specialism research, I've studied what each diverse role is. For example, there's illustration, animation, concept art, interior design, comic design, and set design, just to name a few. As I'm choosing fine art, the key responsibilities of a fine artist are to follow the creative process with the project, experiment with different methods, produce briefs that lead to ideas, then a final outcome, and on top of this, you need to know how to run a business. These include managing resources, promotion, either via social media or advertisements, as well as organizing the sales. Entrepreneurship requires applying business skills to manage and promote a business. At times, your core art skills and capabilities as the business plan will help make profit of the work and build a career, but you must also focus on marketing tactics, both online and offline. These then branch into licensing creations and selling merchandise and prints. The basics of running a fine art business will include creating a business plan, marketing your work, managing finances, and building an online presence. I chose fine art because it's quite versatile and holds a lot of creative opportunities to explore. I don't have to stick to one style when I can use multiple, even at once. It allows me to gain experience with a material I previously had no understanding of. I've always liked art, it's relaxing, and I'll be there working for hours on end. It's satisfying seeing something you've put effort and time into and appreciating the journey you took to get there. Progressing further, you may be required to learn and discover various skills associated with fine art, and this will help progress into a career. To start off, you'll need to be efficient in the use of multiple materials and techniques, and also have an understanding of the creative process. Sometimes you'll need to be good with software. Communication is important. It's a big step for many, including myself, but it's essential in making a career in fine art. I'm going to be using oil pastels for this project. Before, I used pencils, markers, and pens, and those only. But for this project, I want it to be more inclusive with the materials I use. Alright, so starting off here, I started listing some improvements that I could have made from my last project. For example, like one of the most jarring issues from my last project was that I didn't use that many medias. I think I used about four, or about three mains and one that I barely even used. So I used pens, pencils, coloured pencils, and a tiny bit of paint. And it's barely even noticeable in my final. Paint part is about, oh, paint's this purple bit over here. You can barely even tell. It looks like coloured pens or something like that. Also, like, another issue is like the ideas. I did think that I did a good amount at the time, looking back, I could have done way more at the time I was given. And also like the quality, I'm always like mental about the quality of my work. Like I may think it's pretty good at the time, but looking back, like all that, it's so bad, honestly. Like there's just so many improvements I can make. Yeah, like the whole thing looks a bit rushed in my opinion. But yeah, moving on. But for my artist research, I started with Edvard Munch. Um, the most noticeable like part of his art is the swirls in the sky and also like the figures here. The faceless people in this painting over here are meant to represent different human emotions and alienation as well. And not only that, he also paints like different moments that he's experienced through his life that have caused probably psychological trauma as well. Again, Monk he's very plagued by trauma and stress as well. Like this painting over here is a depiction of his sister dying as well. I think this is his friend um going through some trauma as well. So he's watching other people go through the same thing. And the Scream, this is the most famous painting. This is meant to portray anxiety. He had a lot of mental issues as well. He coped with mental health as well and a lot of stress and anxiety. Yeah. So to start off, I sketched a picture of my friend sitting on a wall above a canal. Originally, this was meant to mean fear, as this was based off of my personal experience, similar to this here. Monk probably felt sadness and grief in this moment here. I was feeling like scared and like fear and all that, feeling I was gonna fall in. Yeah. And then later on, I made refinements of all these like drawings. I used watercolors with this and a touch of colored pencil as well. Um, yeah, this is another one as well of my mate sitting on a bench. That's meant to mean about peace or something like that, or maybe reminiscence as well. I kept the same meaning with this refinement, meaning of fear, but I went for a more light-hearted painting with this one over here. When looking back, I think there's some noticeable features representing not Monk's work, like there's a little swirl over here, but you could just probably just mistake that for the hill or something like that. Like the sky doesn't really look like Monk either. Maybe some of the strokes going across this like grass and concrete as well. But other than that, I don't think I captured it too well. Here, it's sort of similar. It kind of reminds me of this bridge over here. This is what I was going for really, and I don't think I captured the canal at all, the river here. I didn't get any. It's just a blank. It's just blank, like light blue. None of the strokes, only like different tones of blue either, which I could have gone for as well. Also, I did like the look of. I did like the look of the other one here, but now that I look back, honestly, I can see that a lot of improvements need to be made. Like I need to reflect amongst work in it more. This one was really rushed, honestly. I didn't really like this one, even when I made it either. Like I don't think I represented like any of Monk's work in this one. So it was an okay start, but I know I can notice like many improvements that I could make with both of these really. Next we've got Van Gogh. He kind of uses these distorted feels to kind of convey his emotions, and also like the color schemes. He even uses it in his own portraits to kind of like show how he feels as well. Like these two over here, they're basically just depictions of like what he saw in different locations. For example, sort of starting out over here, it's just kind of like his view from a window in a mental hospital, and all the distortions kind of like display his personality, state of mind, emotions, and all that. Down here, you got all my sketches. This was at a point where I was considering doing the sky as well instead of portraits. Um, so the sketches here, they're kind of pointless. With the sky, you really like focus on the colour to kind of like show the emotions. these are basically just like the layout, not really like showing any meaning. When we get to these refinements over here, you can definitely see like the colour, they show different emotions, but also kind of like swells as well. Like I've put in the trees here as well. This one over here, this was taken from my bedroom window, and the other one over here, this was taken from my gym window. I kind of like replicated some of the distortion in the sky as well. Alright, next we've got Daniel Green. He's the artist I'm probably inspired by the most due to a lot of the details in the portraits, and also the fact a unique thing about him is that he asks the people he's drawing like what emotions they're feeling, so he can kind of like colour the background to kind of like reflect that said emotion really. So he uses like pink for this one, green for this one over here, or yellow or something, and like orange and brown for this one over here. The thing I was mainly looking at when I was making more ideas for this was kind of like the facial expressions as well, which is another way how he like shows emotion. So a lot of these artists they can't have more than one way of like showing their emotions really. Alright, next up we got like my samples over here. This was basically when I started using oil pastels, so I didn't have as much experience here as you can tell. Like I used them like crayons instead of like smudging them, adding like little bits or like dots to like add lighter tones as well. Like with this, the colours turned out like much lighter than they're supposed to really. And at the time, I thought they were pretty good, but now looking back, there's like so many improvements I could make with them. They're not all bad. Like a lot of the textures and like details I got right. So like some of the creases here look pretty good. But overall they're okay. And also the face expressions, they're decent. I captured them pretty well compared to like the photos as well. And also like the emotions is a big thing as well. Like the whole purpose is like what emotion they're conveying really. But when like drawing all the photos or drawing all like the designs, I couldn't really figure out what emotion they were like trying to convey really. So I had a guess over here. Moving on to David Hockney, the first thing I really noticed about some of his portraits is that they're less detailed than some of the other artists that I've done before. As you can tell over here, he uses a lot more brighter colours really, possibly to like convey more emotion as well. And also like another thing he uses is like adding like chairs as well. For some reason I haven't shown this here, but he draws singular chairs, some empty, some in a group to kind of convey like human emotions as well, such as like loneliness, sometimes friendship as well. And also the photo joiners here, something I've done before. These are also used to like show many different emotions. They're also taken at a lot of different times as well and different angles. Also to show like a group of emotions that someone feels. Moving on to like my sketches. These are like some really quick sketches of some of the refinements I'll later make really. And moving on to the actual refinements. For this one, I wanted to capture like the like brighter like aesthetic that Hockney was going for. So I used markers and a touch of coloured pencil as well. These turned out pretty decent. Like what I like about these is that they're less realistic, which was kind of a good thing, really. As like some of my other refinements that I was doing before had like a lot of detail, so this was kind of like a break from all of that. Alright, next, I actually did like a second set of artist research. So like the four other artists that I did, I realised they were like male artists in it. So then I realised why not do the complete opposite and do four female artists as well, and trying to like compare how like each side portrays like state of mind and emotion and all that. So to start off, I did Valeria Fallot. The first thing I noticed about this is that like she does like an abstract like pattern on her head and the different colours and like textures as well. These are kind of what she uses to portray emotion and the state of mind as well. Then with my sketches, I use myself as like the reference, and I'm not a fan of the quality of this to be fair. Like the pattern on the head and the dripping effect was pretty good, but I don't think I got the facial expressions right. Alright, next we've got Frida Kahlo. Her way of showing emotion is by using animals. So, for example, with this painting over here, she uses a deer being hunted to kind of reflect a moment in her life where she felt pain or something like that. To basically compare the suffering as being the same as an animal dying or something. And also, she uses like other animals to kind of convey emotions or possibly like lack thereof, where they once used to be. So she has a monkey over here, a crow, and I think there's a cat, all painted in black to kind of show that there once was emotion, but now that she's past a certain point in her life, that's just gone. And also, these are just moments where that emotion probably still existed as well, with like the green parrot as well and something as well. With this one, hang on, let me go back. This one over here, honestly, I was trying to recreate this painting over here, but honestly, I didn't really choose to refine this one. This was probably just a concept, really. And hang on, these are just other bases for like portraits as well. I decided to use collage to try something new as well, and I cut out like, animals from like, I found in newspapers as well to probably just give it meaning and emotion as well. Alright, next we got Marley Damar. So the thing about her portraits is that it's pretty much up to you to kind of figure out what emotion she's trying to like convey with her portraits. So me personally, I think this one here with the smoke is probably like relaxation, and like it's due to like the color scheme as well. So it's kind of blank as well, saying there's nothing going on really. So that's why I think that. And also with the portraits where you can barely make out there's a face, for example, this one here, I'd probably say that it's like confusion with a little bit of stress as well with the red. And it has a distorted feel, which is kind of what I think that as well. Also with this red portrait here as well, I say the facial expression is kind of like saying otherwise, which is kind of like a way of showing that it's trying to hide the emotion as well. Moving on to my sketches, I tried creating this portrait here with the smoke cloak effect here, kind of like showing like the emotions of being like relaxed or something. So that was my take. With the yellow one here, while doing my research, I found that yellow is often associated with the mind. So I decided to do a whole portrait in yellow to represent the state of mind, pretty much. Alright, then finally we got Danielle Franz. So the first thing I noticed about her art is that she covers her face a lot in most of her portraits. This I thought was meant to mean insecurity, but I later found out that it's meant to mean like the personal struggles that she's went through. Also, I noticed that she uses a lot of colour in some of her portraits, particularly with this one here. I was thinking that she was trying to convey that she's feeling multiple emotions at one time, and with the portraits where she uses like a singular colour or less, so around 3 to 2, this probably meant that she's feeling like one particular emotion, but not as much as another one. So this was my original thoughts on her work. I like her use of colour, and she's actually the main point of inspiration when using symbolism in my own work. So moving to my samples, I use myself as a base again, and I try to reflect a lot of the stuff she uses in her own portraits as well. So, for example, like the different colours representing different emotions, and again, similar to Frida Kahlo, she uses animals as well, like this dove over here, to also signify emotion. So, when comparing the two sides, I noticed that male artists tend to use like real life imagery and their personal experiences to kind of convey like what has caused them trauma and a negative state of mind. So with Van Gogh, when he painted Starry Night, he was visioning the view from his window when he was staying at a mental hospital. And with Edvard Munch, he was like painting like visions from past experiences that caused him psychological trauma as well. Not only that, but the overall aesthetic of their work. So, for example, Van Gogh uses this distorted feel to his artwork to kind of convey like his mental health and also negative state of mind and his experiences with like schizophrenia as well. In Edvard Munch's case, He suffered a lot with anxiety and stress as well. And also, in one of his paintings, the faceless figures that are shown, these are kind of meant to show the alienation that he had from other people, and he felt like he was on his own most of the time. Like the swirling effect in the sky is also meant to show this same emotion with stress and anxiety, etc. Then, when it comes to female artists, so particularly with I think Daniel Franz as well, she often like covers her face a lot with flowers, animals, and all that as well. This is kind of meant to portray insecurity as well, which is something I've actually experimented with when taking photos for this project as well. She often like covers her face with like different coloured like flowers as well. It's often like a more positive feel, kind of hiding the bad stuff as well. So like the different coloured flowers are meant to like portray like different emotions that she's feeling, kind of saying that she's like masking her true emotions, which are more negative, with something more positive as well. Kind of the same with how she covers her face with like animals as well. For example, with the dove, she's kind of hiding something more negative. So when discussing like what I want to convey about the state of mind, this was the point where I realised that I definitely wanted to discuss mental health. Particularly at this point, I was focusing on kind of like showing how like people try to like mask their actual emotions with often like facial expressions as well. Basically revealing something like much more negative that's often hidden by something more positive, kind of like a mask. So basically, I took some of my samples that I used that are artist inspired. So, for example, this is David Hockney over here. I experimented with a lot of composition as well, and particularly with like the yellow tears. It's kind of like at the time I was more focused on like using yellow to kind of convey state of mind as well. So with the tears here, it's often depicting like the feeling like sad inside or stress as well. The yellow often meaning the mind, which is what I was thinking. And like with the three heads, I was often thinking that this could be like mixed personalities or mixed emotions as well. Again, with this is often like samples just experimenting the fact that they're hiding something else on the inside. Like again with the compositions as well. And in this case, all of these are pretty much similar. And then here I talk about experiment with the compositions using different materials as well, which was often a weak point with my last project as well. Then I started sketching and experimenting with much more composition as well, like trying out new things, different materials. Again, basically just filling in all the different flaws I had from the last project as well. So here we got my primary images. So how I did this was I took my phone camera and pointed it towards me, and then basically I just worked from there pretty much. I only really used myself as like the reference really, and these are the sketches that came out from it. I did about 7, something like that, yeah. And overall, I think like 1 or 2 turned out okay. The rest were just like really bad, in my opinion. Like the spacing's way off, the shading's way off on some as well, and like some of the textures that I did in like the face, the hair, just didn't really turn out as I wanted them really. Alright, so I did another set of artist research over here. I only did about 2 artists to keep it a bit brief. So first off, I did Hannah Hawk. Her whole style is Dadaism. And what she does with her art, she basically deconstructs some parts of it before reconstructing it with other like medias that she's found as well. So these can be from like newspapers, advertisements, and all that. Her like style is pretty like unorthodox, as with Dadaism as a whole. Really, it can be pretty much like anything that you find. So like all of her stuff here, it's just random media that she's found, just put together to like recreate something. That's what I like about it as a whole, really. And I do plan to like use like a lot of this in my other ideas. And then we got Jenny Saville. So what I like about her portraits is that they're colourful, But she has this effect like on her portraits where it looks like it's kind of peeling away to reveal something inside. So I do want to like add some of this to my ideas as well, saying that like the outer shell's kind of like peeling away to reveal something inside that they're hiding. And also another thing with Jenny, her scale as well, which is something I want to improve on with this project. You know, her portraits are about the size of walls or something like that, much bigger than like A0, A1. I'm gonna keep mine to about A1, but for all future projects, I do want to go bigger. Alright, so we did more research, this time on the Destroy project by Rankin. It's basically just a large group of photos made by many different people. So what I like about all this is like, for example, it takes the concept of deconstructing and reconstructing, and also Dadaism as well, which I like to ideas that I've implemented into my own work as well. So here it looks like it's split down the middle, revealing the inside. This is another concept I've been working with, where something's been revealed, something more negative, and also covering parts of the face is another thing as well, which I experimented with some of my artist-inspired studies as well. That's often used to show like insecurity, and sometimes they just downright destroy the whole design, possibly to just convey like they're going through a crisis or something as well. Then I moved on to secondhand research. These are just images that I found off Google, and I could use for inspiration for photos as well, and maybe some ideas. For example, this is what I found for peace, tranquility, serenity, and all that. This is what I found for like immersion, concentrating, and here's what I found for confusion. So then I started writing about what art style I'll use for like my future ideas, specifically the refinements, and then my final outcome. So at this point, 100% knew that I was going to be using oil pastels because I had enough experience with them, and there was something that I hadn't known before I started this project, and gained enough experience for with this project. The artists that I was going to be inspired by the most were definitely Daniel Green and possibly Daniel Franz as well. Daniel Green mainly due to like the realistic feel that you see in his portraits, and Franz mainly due to the symbolism as well. Though I weren't directly going to use the exact form of symbolism she uses in her work, I was going to kind of like make the symbolism my own, and also the layout as well, like how she covers her face in her portraits with this said symbolism. I'm going to try and do the same with my final as well. So I moved on to my refinements. These were my two best ones. So this was with secondary, like inspiration. This was with primary. This one, I can't lie, I don't think like this tone was the best. It's more yellowy, which wasn't really what I was going for. Same with this one, but for some reason this turned out much better because I used many different tones. That's what kind of makes it unique, really. But when it comes to this one, really, is the quality isn't really as good. I feel like I rushed it slightly as well. These were like the other attempts. These look like really good compared to all of these. Like I don't know what was going on here. Like looks nothing like me at all. And also with these two here, I actually didn't use smudging with these ones. Like I was still using oil pastels like crayons really without smudging it, and adding different layers as well to add some shade. So it turned out okay. Like the hair on this one looks alright, but like the colour scheme just isn't it really. Same with all this, but the smudging was okay. But it's overall just like the proportions and the nose. I don't know what went on with the nose, honestly. The hair looks okay, actually. That's probably the only good part about this, really. And this one, the layout was alright, but the texture, the colours as well, it feels a bit rushed. I took my best refinement using primary inspiration and just experimented with different compositions as well. Like kind of using like a black and white image to resemble like a negative state of mind compared to a positive one. Positive one which is often shown on the outside and in colour as well, and the negative which is shown on the inside and not really seen to everyone else. So here I talked about scale, which is where I definitely wanted to start off with A3 before going much higher into A1. Here I thought about ideas for my final, like also like how many. I would have created for my final, because I wanted to make multiple like different portraits for my final, kind of like a series. So I ended up going with about 4, but before that I was thinking about 6 for some reason, and then I realised that would be way too much, and I wouldn't get that in like in time or nothing. So at this point, I was thinking for my final, I'd create a series to tell a story about my progression through mental health. As back about 2022, I was like a completely different person to what I am now, and it took a long time to get progress better mentally and both physically as well. So around here, it was Mental Health Day. At the time I was writing this, it was about October 10th. So I had in mind that for my final, I wanted to go through with this series, telling a story about my mental health. But this is a little like side like drawing as well that I decided to create to commemorate Mental Health Day. So over here is a photo of me and my granddad, who I lost to suicide when I was about 4 years old. Like the ways I'm kind of like conveying mental health is through like the yellow, which back before, like in the early stages of this project, I stated that yellow is often associated with the mind and also the state of mind as well, etc., including everything like mental health and all that. So I thought like the meaning for this could be that the yellow would be an indicator that I'll go through the same mental health issues that my granddad once did as well. This is going over the personal aspect and what I wanted to change really. Basically just like changing it from using like random images of like probably my friends and just using them as kind of like vessels to show the different states of mind and also different like mental issues as well. But this is the point. Well, actually, no. Back then was the point that I realised I wanted to tell a story through my final piece, a really personal story actually. And this is, yeah, this whole thing's basically explaining like pretty much I hated myself back then, and the journey that I wanted to show to how I got to where I am now. So the increased scale, this is the time I was just experimenting with A1 like ideas as well. Not really with these ones. These were just compositions that I carried on from these. But this was the point where I was like beginning to experiment with like different scale. These were like the size I wanted my final to be, so around A1 to A2. In the end, I went with like A1 in the end. These are just with reflection. Like with this, yeah, it looks a bit yellow. This is probably my least favorite. Like the proportions were alright, I guess, but overall, like the color scheme was just not it. But then I bought myself some higher quality oil pastels around this stage, and the quality just, you can tell it's just improved by like 100 times more. Like not only that, it's just like the proportions as well got better with that, and also like the textures here, they just look like so much better. Because when I made this and all of my other refinements, I had like a really like limiting set of oil pastels. They didn't have any like different like gradients of colours. They just had like your basic primary colours and like your green, your orange, and all that. So pretty limiting with this. Then the compositions, these are again just reflecting like state of mind, mixing in. So at this point, I wanted a part of my final to be health, friendship, I think mental health as well. So I began mixing like the different portraits as well to kind of convey that we have similar interests or something, and then kind of like leaving some parts the same to say like we're different in a way as well. It's just discussing like the different medias and what I want to do with them for not just my final, but also like my other projects as well. So with my main material that I'm using with oil pastels, I've already like got a higher quality set of oil pastels, which has like boosted the quality of my final by like 10 times more. So these are the improvements that I've made, that I've began making with not just my ideas, but with my final as well. With collage for my final, I did just use newspaper, but with other projects, I do want to like expand like my skill set with multiple materials associated with collage, such as cardboard, like wrappers, and anything I find around really. Wax resist at this point, all I can really think of is using wax resist to kind of create like tears or kind of like sweat as well, which I've been doing with my ideas and some of my refinements as well. I use wax resist in my final actually to create like a scar effect on like the first portrait in my final. But you know, I could uncover something else as I go on with other projects. And with watercolor, it's pretty similar to oil pastels. You can create some textures as well, but personally, I prefer oil pastels because I like the feel you get when you smudge them in as well. Like it just flows really nice, in my opinion. So here's my actual final. As you can see, these are the 4 portraits over here, and I've named each of the stages a particular title. So for the first stage, I've titled this The End. The second stage, I've titled it The Struggle. The third stage is called Rebirth, and the final stage I've called Reminiscence. So the first stage, I've called this The End because this is the beginning stage where I had no hope. And personally, I was thinking that the end would be coming soon. So in reality, it was the beginning when at the time I was thinking it would be the end. So in depth, the question marks at the side of my head over here, they're all created with like different pencil techniques. So you got pointillism. I've just used cross hatching for this one over here, and I've just used like swirls for some of them. Anyway, the question marks here, they're supposed to mean like a sense of being lost, confusion, because that's what I was at the time really. Like I didn't know where I was going really. I was in this position where like I had no hope for myself. Like I didn't think I'd go anywhere with my life really, and that was the mindset I had, and I had no way to really escape it, kinda. So the scar on my face here, and as you can see with this, I'm covering my face, and this slight scar on my face over here, which I made with Wax Resist, is kind of meant to show that, like personally, I felt really insecure, and I was really bad in shape as well. Because back in the day, I thought myself really fat, which I kind of was. But like this is kind of like to show my insecurities and that I was trying to like hide the way I looked. I was embarrassed, like really insecure, low self-esteem whatsoever. So this bandage on my head, this was kind of meant to signify that I was at a low mental state, and I was kind of like my state of mind was like hurt or something. Also, I've intentionally left this watch over here blank because the mindset that I had for myself was that I personally thought that I had little time left. In fact, no time at all. So I realised that the end was coming, and pretty much I had no time remaining. I think like I was gonna fade away anytime soon, which I used like puzzles from a newspaper to kind of convey over here. Right, so moving on, we got the struggle. This was the point in my life where a spark kind of went switched on in my head, and I realised if I don't do something soon, I wouldn't be here anymore. Pretty much, like I'd go down this path which I couldn't escape from, and eventually something bad would happen. Pretty much. So I've actually split this in half to kind of convey that I've put myself in a much worse position than I have to kind of invest, and basically like this would kind of progress my mental health better if I do put this in the position. So at the time, like, so the first stage, the negatives were like I was in really bad shape for one. Number two, my grades were failing. So this struggle is kind of like how I kind of improve all of this. So basically, I isolate myself. I get to work pretty much. Like I don't go out or nothing. Like I stay home with always trying to get my grades up. Also, kind of like try to lose weight as well. So this side over here, this space-like area is kind of meant to represent my mind, and this kind of like mutilated like head over here is kind of representing the struggle that I went through because I put my mind to absolute agony to kind of get out of this situation. Like the bleeding you can see out my eye is kind of like how it's leaking out. It's kind of like being inflicted on my physical self as well, because like the anger I put myself through was just insane. And also this like fading thing over here, these are actually made out of portraits of my friends that I did. Like as you can see, they're closer together. So where I was previously fading away, they're kind of slowly coming back together. So like the torment I'm kind of putting myself through to kind of get out of this situation is eventually paying off. It's kind of fixing together, and my mental health slowly but surely improving. Moving on, we've got Rebirth. So this was the point where, like, I've done good in life right now. Like, I've got in better shape. Like, my grades have improved, and pretty much all that's left is like the aftermath, where like where the cracks are really. Like, I've stopped. Like, the fading's gone, and I'm basically building something with myself. I'm improving myself really. So this over here is a cutout of like the Christ Redeemer statue in Brazil, to kind of signify rebirth, because that's basically what happened. Like, I'm pretty much a different person now, like, than I used to be. Like, back here, I used to be like a nervous wreck, bad in shape. Here, I'm got in better shape. I'm improving mentally. Like, I'm becoming more confident here. Like, and a part of that was due to friendship. So over here, I've replaced like a lot of like where my face is with like cutouts of like parts of like portraits of my friends, particularly like the eyes as well, signifying that we kind of see the same, we think the same, and all that. And this like collage over here is meant to signify not only like rebirth with this statue over here, but that I'm kind of being reconstructed slowly but surely. The pink areas here with text are kind of meant to signify my brain, and that my mind has kind of like played a role in improving myself really. And then finally, we have rebirth. Now, you'd think the last stage would be the most positive, but in reality, it's the complete opposite. So over here, um, I've drew like portraits of myself with pencils, using different methods to keep it unique whatsoever. Well, the case is, you'd think this would be positive, but no, it's the complete opposite. Right now, I'm in a good state, sure. I'm healthier than I've ever been. Like, I'm okay mentally. But the thing is, I'm kind of haunted by my past. Like, I'm embarrassed, just insecure about who I used to be. And this kind of shows that, like, I still remain in my head. No matter how much I do to try and get rid of it, it's always going to remain with me. It's like all these like sketches over here. These are actually like failed drawings of myself. These are intentional. These are meant to signify how much of a failure I used to be, really, and how much hatred I see for myself back in the day. And this road over here, yeah, this is a road to show that the journey's far from over. And this is kind of like shown as like a pencil drawing with like blue biro. This is the blueprint for what's to come next, and it's basically made from my mistakes. As this is pencil as well, and these are all pencils. So these have basically built the road to lead to like a better future as well. And then you've got the eyes over here. These are like my friends' like eyes as well, to basically signify that they've tried to help improve my mental health, which they have to an extent. But the truth is, your past is always going to be with you. It's always going to haunt you in ways that you can't change, really.